What's up guys, check this out. I have this Acer Nitro 5 laptop here and I was having some issues with the hinges on the side. Check it out. This is what was happening. The screen was separating from the hinges. The hinge was broken and I had to replace it. And this is just a quick little video in case anybody else is having that problem. Show you how to do it. Get this thing back in working order. The hinges are a couple bucks. They're not expensive. The fix is easy and you guys can do it too. So check out this video and hopefully it's gonna help you out too. By the way, usually I make DaVinci Resolve videos, so if you're into that, check out some DaVinci Resolve videos. All right, let's get into this repair. So the only things you need to make this repair are the hinges themselves, which I got them off of Amazon. They're like 19 bucks. I'll link them in the description below. Here's what they look like. And then the other thing I had was this guy right here. So this is just a little screwdriver toolkit that came from Harbor Freight. I couldn't have paid more than, I don't know, 5 bucks, 10 bucks for this thing. And it's come in super handy, not only working on PCs, but I'm a Mac guy. So working on Macs too, this thing's come in real handy. So just a little screwdriver kit, little electronic screwdriver kit will come in handy for you. And again, I just picked mine up at Harbor Freight for a few dollars. And disclaimer, I'm not some kind of repair guy, computer repair guy. I just didn't want to pay any money to have somebody fix my computer when it looked easy enough just watching some videos here on YouTube. And I would only recommend doing this if you're comfortable opening up your machine and all that kind of stuff. So it's not on me. But here's how I did it, and hopefully it'll help you guys out too. If you have the same problem, fix your laptop so that way you don't got to get a new one, because 9 times out of 10 your hinge is just broke and it'll work just fine if you fix it. So all right, let's get into the repair. So as you guys can see here, this is where the problem was, where the hinge connects to the base of the laptop. The screen and the top case of the screen there kind of kept opening up, and you couldn't really close it without holding on to it, so that way it didn't just snap all the plastic. So that's what we're going to fix, and the reason is because the hinge is broken. So you got to get your parts together. I have one of these nice blue mats, anti-static mats with the little magnetic parts that work really good. Just kind of helps you keep everything in order and keep it from flying all over the place when you're opening up the laptop, because some of these screws are very small. So the first thing that you need to do is flip the laptop over, and you need to take out all the screws on the bottom that hold the bottom part of the case on. Just make sure you get all of them. There's 1 or 2 in the middle. And you also have to take off the cover for the extra memory if you're going to put that in, as well as the cover for the RAM. And this is going to allow you to be able to take the back of the laptop off. Now, to get the back of the laptop off, there are some little snaps in there. I used a little plastic tool to help kind of pry it up a little bit. Just be careful, you don't want to break anything. Work your way around the edges, and that back piece should be able to pop right off. So just take your time, work around the edges. Make sure you get all the screws. You can see I missed a few here, so make sure you get all the screws so that you can open this guy up. Now, once I opened it up, I disconnected the battery just so I didn't have any power going to anything. I didn't want to mess anything up. I noticed there was a lot of dust in there too, which I'll clean out in a minute. But for now, I wanted to close this guy back up, flip the laptop over. I'm going to open it up, and I want to take off the bezel that's around the screen itself. So it's pretty easy. You just got to kind of work around it slowly. There's little plastic snaps that hold it on, and eventually it should just pop right off. Now, as you can see here, I did break one of the little clips on the side of the bezel. I just used a little crazy glue, put it back on. It worked out fine. It was no problem. Once the bezel is off, the next thing we need to do is take the screen out. There's 4 screws in each corner that hold the screen on. You want to undo those, but be careful with the wire that connects from the base of the laptop to the screen. You don't want to pull that out and yank on it. Once you get the screen loose, just lay it down easily. You can see the broken piece of the arm popped out there. You want to be careful with the wires. Make sure that nothing's going to get pinched, nothing's in the way, because we're going to close the laptop down and flip it back over so we can take the back off and start to remove the screws that hold in the hinges. Now, there are some pieces of tape as well as some wires that run around these hinges, so be very careful. Remember how everything goes, and remember where the screws go. Take a picture, because they have to go back in the same spot. Once I got the first side out, I started working on the next side, and this is the broken side, so part of the thing just came right out, part of the hinge came right out, and I had to unscrew some of the screws and work the wires around the other part of the hinge. Now, I did notice the machine was pretty dusty, so here I went through and kind of dusted it off a little bit, cleaned out the fans because I didn't want all the big chunks of dust in there. Didn't want it to get heated up while I'm working on it, so clean it out while you're there. I cleaned off the cover as well, and that way it should run good and cool for you once you get it all back together. So now I put the back on and opened up the lid again, and now we're going to start working on the hinges on the lid side of the laptop. So the best way to get the hinges off and work with it is get a little helper and hold the laptop with the screen side down, so that way nothing falls out on you. You don't bust up any of the wires or anything like that. So you want to go ahead and take out the screws that are holding the hinges in, And be careful with the wires. Some of the wires are pretty close. You may need to take some of them off, but remember how they go because you're going to have to put them back when you go to put it back together. Now, there are a few little bolts that come on the hinge itself. You want to make sure you take those off, get all the screws out together, keep the bolts and the screws together, so that way when we put it back together, you can put everything in the right spot. Now, one thing I did notice is that where some of the bolts were supposed to remain on the top of the laptop, they did fall out. The plastic did get broken, but I was able to just kind of lay them back in there for some of them. And then for other ones, I was able to just attach the bolt with the screw. So here I'm putting some of the bolts back into the hinge, trying to connect it back to the chassis there of the laptop. And you notice that I did have the problems, like I said, with getting the bolts on and staying in the top of the laptop cover. So what I did was I just held the bolt on the back of the hinge and put my screw in, and when I laid it back down into the top of the laptop, everything worked out okay. It lined back up, and it stayed in there just fine. I had no problems with it. Once I pulled all the parts and pieces off the old ones, you can see I'm still trying to get some of those little bolts to go back into the plastic housing on the top of the laptop. But like I said, most of them I was able to just hold the bolt, put the screw back in the new arm there, and it worked out just fine. And you do have to kind of move the laptop around a little bit to get in there. It's a little tricky. Definitely helps if you have an extra hand, but not impossible. You just got to go slow and take your time and be careful with everything. Now here I'm trying to get the new hinge to go around all the wires and get the wires back in the right spot. Putting the screws back in, making sure they went back in exactly where they came out. So that way when I go to put everything back together, everything lines up and it's good to go. Then moving over to the other side, working on that one, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to open the laptop a little to help get that old one out. We're going to slide the new one in, make sure we can weave it around all the wires just how the old one was. Once you're able to get the new hinges in, you want to flip it back over, and now we're going to reattach the screen. Make sure your wires are all out of the way. You want to tuck them back into the little holders and the little clips and things that were there. So you got to take note when you're taking this thing apart as far as where does everything go. And then we're going to go ahead and put the screws back in the four corners of the screen so that the screen is attached back to the lid and to our hinges, and we should be looking pretty good here. And definitely make sure you tuck in those wires so that when you close the lid and put the bezel back on, it's not going to get in the way of anything. And I did make sure to clean everything up here. I cleaned the screen a little bit where I'm not going to be able to reach it underneath the bezel, just to make sure that, everything's going to look good. The bezel just pops back on. It's pretty easy. Then we're going to turn the laptop back over. I'm going to reconnect the battery here, throw the cover back on, and actually before you even do that, make sure you've got all your screws in the right spot for the hinges. Make sure everything looks good. You can see I actually put a screw in the wrong spot there. Here I'm checking the holes to make sure that they line up with what I can see inside the laptop. Checking the screen. Hinges work great, no problem. Now I'm going to go through and put all my screws back in the base, as well as put my two covers on the bottom back on. And then we should be good to go. You should have a good functioning screen on your laptop. The hinges should work good. Again, make sure you put your covers back on, the screws back in the covers. When you're done, flip it on over, open it up, fire it up, and you should be good to go with a perfectly working screen for your laptop.